So during this next section, we're going to take a look at modifying our workbook and modifying our Excel worksheets. Open in front of you, I've got a simple little exercise. This was a brand new document. It's got a single sheet inside of here. You can see I got sheet 1 there at the bottom. And I put a couple of values inside of the B column, specifically inside of the B3 and B4 cells. Now I want to demonstrate how you can move and copy data within an Excel worksheet. Now, much like everything inside of Excel, there are many different ways to accomplish these two actions. I'm going to show you one of them, but just note that there are multiple ways to do this. So first, a copy. I want to be able to copy some data from one location, copy that data, and paste it in to another location. Whether that location is within the same worksheet, different worksheets, or perhaps completely different workbooks. So take a look. This is how you copy data inside of an Excel worksheet. My first step, I've got to copy the cell or group of cells, range of cells that I want to copy. In this case, I'm going to select cell B3 where it says copy. Now I'm going to utilize a shortcut key here to be able to copy this content. I'm going to press Control C. There we go. I've now copied that data. Now I need to select a cell that I want to paste this content into. And in this example, I'm going to make it super simple. I'm going to click over inside of D3 and I'm going to press Control V, V like Victor. This will paste it in. And there I have it. I've now copied the data and pasted it into a new location. Now you'll notice that my copy, the original one, B3, is still highlighted with the little marquee, those marching ants. That means that I still have the opportunity to click someplace else and paste it in. And I can continue to do this. I'm just Control V wherever I want to paste this content in. This is especially effective when you start getting into formulas. Like we were discussing earlier, you could copy a formula and paste it into different locations. Now to remove the little marching ants, that marquee, once again, you got multiple ways to do it. But if I hit the escape key on my keyboard, top left corner, escape, this will stop the copy operation. That's no longer on my clipboard, no longer something that I can paste in. So simple process. Select the cells or group of cells, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Now how about moving content? In this case, I literally want to remove it from B4, where I got that word move, and put it someplace else. Not copy it, but cut and paste. Move it. Again, some simple shortcuts here. I'm going to select B4, the single cell or group of cells, whatever it is that you want to move, cut out. I'm going to hit Control X, X like X-ray, or cut. So once again, I get the little marquee, the marching ants, much like I do when I copy something. But I'm now going to move it. I'm cutting it out. Control X. Now I'll click someplace else, and I'll paste it in. What was the shortcut key for paste? Control V, V like Victor. Control V. I've now moved that content. Cut it from one area, Control X, paste it into another area, Control V. Now we've got two operations. Simple copy, copy over and over, and I've got cut and paste. I'm moving the content. So try this out yourself. Build just a blank Excel workbook, put some values in there, try copy and paste, try cut and paste, move this stuff around, copy it around the worksheet. Just get comfortable working with those two commands. Now really quickly, remember there's multiple ways to do everything inside of Excel. I use some shortcut keys. But on my Home tab, far left, you got your clipboard. And in there, you got your copy and paste commands as well. And I want to point out, this isn't something that's specific to Excel. You do this in just about any application out there. Highlight, cut it out, copy it, paste it in someplace else. Same shortcut keys. These work inside of multiple applications, majority of applications out there. So try it out. During this lecture, we're going to take a look at modifying our worksheet, or more accurately, modifying our spreadsheet and the structure of that spreadsheet. Now, in the case of a monthly budget, right now I've only got 3 months worth of data. Well, there's 12 months in the year. So I want to be able to add, let's see, I got January, February, March. I need to add April and May and June and so on. Well, right now, I haven't accommodated for those additional months. So I need to be able to add additional columns between March and my total. Or how about rows? Maybe I've got new bills that show up, and I need to add rows for additional bills here. Or maybe I need to do the opposite. I need to be able to remove columns or remove rows. So we'll talk about modifying the structure of the spreadsheet by adding additional columns and rows as well as deleting them. Take a look. This is a really quick, simple process. Let's think about columns first. I need to add additional months here. Let's do one column first. So my first step, I know that I want to add a column between March and total. By default, when you add something like a column into Excel, it goes to the left of whatever you have selected. So in this case, I'm going to select column E. I want to add a column to the left of the E column. Now with the E column selected there and I just clicked on the header, I'm now going to use a shortcut key. I'm going to use Control plus, and I'm using the plus sign on my number pad on the far right of my keyboard. Now if you've got a laptop that doesn't have a full keyboard, doesn't have a number pad, just a keyboard that doesn't have a number pad, then you can do Control Shift and the plus key at the top of your keyboard. Either way, Control plus on your number pad or Control Shift plus at the top of your keyboard. Either way. So I'm going to hit Control plus, and this will add an additional column. And now I can finish this off. We'll say I've now got January, February, March, April, 2016. There we go. Very nice. And I can start entering the data, maybe copy the formulas over using the autofill command. I'll just copy. I'm going to 0 because I don't have any values in there. I'll grab these 4 down here because I want to get the min, max, and average and count. Just autofill them over, and I've got my new column there. Really simple. Click on a column such as the F or E column, Control plus, you got a column. Now, maybe there's additional months that I want to add here. So this is pretty neat. Take a look. I can select multiple columns. So now I've got F through I selected. Just click and drag on the column headers. 1, 2, 3, 4 columns that are highlighted now. Now what do you think is going to happen if I hit Control plus on my keyboard? Let's try it. I'm going to hit Control plus. I've now got 4 new columns there. Very slick. Remember the autofill feature? I did that with formulas earlier. Click, grab that little box in the corner, drag it. Watch this. I'm going to try it out on my months. Let's see what happens here. I'll grab that little box in the corner. I'm on cell E4 where I got my April 2016, and I'm going to drag it over. And look at that. I don't have to type it in. There's May, June, July, and August. I'm done. Now I can do the same thing with my formulas. Just drag those over, get them all set up for these additional columns that I've now added. Highlight a group of columns, hit Control plus, you've got that many columns added to your worksheet. Same with rows. If I want to add a row, I just click on a row like row 7 here, hit Control plus, I've now got a new row in there for an additional bill. What if I want to add multiple bills in here? Well, you highlight multiple rows, hit Control plus, and now you've got that many rows. So really simple to be able to modify your worksheet's data structure by adding columns and rows. Now it's just up to you to fill in the data. Now let's think about this for a moment. This was adding. What if I want to delete content? I want to get rid of a few columns, or I want to get rid of a few rows. What do you think? What could you do? You know what? I don't need all these additional bills. Who needs bills? Let's get rid of that. Psh, don't need them. So I want to delete 7 through 11. Let's get rid of those rows. Well, Control plus added some. What do you think is going to delete them? Control minus. So I'll hold down my Control key, hit the minus key, and I've now deleted those additional rows. Same with columns. I'll highlight E through I. I'm going to hit Control minus, and I've now deleted those columns. So really simple. Control plus to add them, Control minus to delete them. Just make sure you're highlighting the correct data first. So try it out. Open up your monthly budget that you've been building or the exercise file and add some columns, add some rows, whatever you like to do there. Get a feel for manipulating the structure of the spreadsheet through adding columns and rows. So we're going to go back to a topic that I really just hinted at way back when we first started creating this spreadsheet. You remember the title, monthly budget, that's sitting up here inside of cell A1? How monthly budget is kind of trickling into the B column there? Or how about credit cards? Credit cards was a little bit wider, its value, a little bit wider than the A column, so it tried to get into the B column, and now that I've put something in the B column, I've cut off cards there. So I want to accommodate for the width of my columns or the height of my rows. This is something that we can change, once again, in multiple ways. But ultimately, I want to make sure everything fits appropriately within the column or within the row. And this is another super simple, super quick feature. Take a look. This is going to be how you're going to change the width of your columns and the height of your rows. So I'm not concerned too much about the budget at this point. I'm going to come back and do some more formatting on that here in a moment. But I do want to change the credit card, make that fit. So all you need to do is go up between the two columns, A and B. In this case, I want to increase the width of the A column. Right in between, I got a little vertical line there. And when I move my cursor there, you'll see that my cursor changes shape. It's got a double-headed arrow now. And with that, I can left-click and drag to change the width of the column. There we go. Now it fits credit cards. Let's try this. I want to do this across all of these columns. Maybe I want to make the January, February, and March columns wider, just for presentation. Well, I can do it one at a time. I can go between B and C and click and drag, and C and D and click and drag. Or I can grab all three columns, just left click and drag, B, C, and D, and then I'll resize one of them, and whatever I do to one will change all of them. Take a look. So I'll go between B and C, left click and drag, we'll make it just a little bit wider, and now all three columns are equal widths and size. Really simple. Here's a neat feature. What if I grab all of them, all the way from A to F? Now, what I like to do is have Excel perform an autofit. So it will determine the largest value in the column and adjust the column width to that largest value, an autofit. In this case, if I just double click in between two columns, doesn't matter which two columns because I got them all highlighted, I just double click, it performs an autofit. And now it's to the largest value in the column. You can see that monthly budget is the largest column in A, so it jumped out to that. You can see the other one's got a little bit smaller. Or, once again, I can left click and drag and change them all to be the same width. That's pretty nice. Let's make them a little bit smaller. Let's go back down to credit cards. And that's looking pretty good. Nice, uniform, even widths inside of each of my columns. Now this is a column. Rows are very much the same. Let's say for my headers, I want to make the headers row higher, maybe change the background color, do something fancy with them. So if I go between 4 and 5, just right in between, again, I get that double-headed arrow, I'll left click and drag, and I can change the height of the row. Once again, really simple. Change it, decrease it, increase it, do multiple at the same time, click and drag multiple rows, resize them. It's the same thing we just saw inside the columns, but now I'm doing it within a row. So modifying your worksheet, accommodating for those values. I want to point something out. With numbers, if you ever get a column of number values and the column width is too narrow, a lot of times you'll see a bunch of pound symbols or hashtags. Watch this. If I make the F column really too narrow, you know what, that's not a good example because that's a decimal. It's just rounding for me. Let's try the E column here. I'm going to shrink that one up. So now you can see that some of them turn into pound symbols or hashtags. That just means that the column is too narrow. And that's what happens to the numbers by default. So I'm going to increase the size of that column. Let's get those numbers back. Left click and drag just between the two columns and you got your data. Let's get the percentages back in there. There we go. Let's try it out. Open up your monthly budget. Try increasing, decreasing columns. Make sure you can read credit cards or any other values that you have there. Make sure nothing's getting cut off. And making it more presentable, right? Making sure that all that data can fit and be readable. So we've been talking about modifying the worksheet. Deleting columns, adding columns, rows the same, changing the width and height of your columns and rows. Now we're going to get into another topic, still dealing with rows and columns, but we're going to discuss hiding content. Let me give you a scenario here. So I've got this worksheet, monthly budget. Perhaps this is a personal budget or it's a work-related budget, whatever the scenario. And I now want to send this document to coworkers or family, once again, whoever, doesn't matter. But in some cases, when I send the file out, I don't want these viewers of this document to be able to see all of the data. Maybe I'm just sending this out so people can see the January and February data. I don't care about March. Doesn't matter. We're not there yet. Just hide it. I could delete the column, We know how to do that. But if you delete it, it's gone. You're not going to get that back. You'd have to recreate it. So rather than deleting content, stuff that you need to keep around, you can just hide it. And this is another simple process. Take a look. This is going to be how you're going to hide columns or hide rows. Really simple. So March, I don't need it. But I want to keep it around because eventually I'm going to need it, so I'm not going to delete it. So I'm going to select the D column, which is the March column. I'm going to right click on the D column, and one of my options is to hide. So I'm going to select hide, and that March value column is now gone. It's not visible on my screen. Now you can still see up there at the top that my columns go from C to E. Where'd D go? So you might get people that look at that and be like, well, something's hidden, right? Well, you can unhide the content. And if I want to unhide something, another simple process, I'm going to select C to E. Just click and drag to grab those. You don't see it, but D is also selected. I'm going to right click, and one of my options is unhide. And it's back. Really simple. Right click, hide. First highlight what you want to hide. Right click, hide. When you want to get back, highlight the surrounding area. Right click, unhide. And you do the same thing for rows. Just highlight the rows that you want to hide, right click, hide them, right click, unhide them. Try it out. You want to be able to hide stuff that perhaps you don't want other people to see or worry about at this point. Don't delete it, just hide it. Then later on when you need it, unhide it. So the next topic that we're going to get into here, I'm going to put a big old disclaimer on it, a warning. We're going to discuss deleting worksheets. And you want to be very, very careful of this. Most cases, if something goes wrong, something blows up, something disappears, I don't know what happened to it, I make a mistake, my first instinct is to go to the undo button, which is up here on my quick access toolbar, and undo the last action or set of actions. Get back to where the document looks good. When you delete a worksheet, it's gone. You cannot undo the operation of deleting a worksheet. So do be very, very careful of this. Take a look. This is how you can delete a worksheet. But make sure you actually want to delete it and you're deleting the appropriate content. All right. So remember, I've got two worksheets in here, sheet 1 and sheet 2. I'm going to select sheet 2. This is just an empty worksheet, nothing on it. Now, if you delete an empty worksheet, it just deletes it. But if you got content on the worksheet, watch this. I'm going to put something out here. We'll just say, hello. So now I've got some content out there. I'm going to delete this worksheet. And once again, there's multiple ways to delete a worksheet, but here's a quick one. I'm just going to right click on the tab, sheet 2. This is the sheet that I want to delete. I'm going to right mouse button click. And lots of options in here. But one of them is delete. So I'll go ahead and select delete. And remember, this is very important. You cannot undo the deletion of a worksheet. It tells you right there, you can't undo deleting sheets. And you might be removing some data. If you don't need to delete it, then don't delete it. If you need to, then click the delete key. So I hit delete. That worksheet's gone. You can see I've only got one sheet down there. And my undo button does not work. Be very careful of that. There's very little worse than working all day inside of something, deleting a worksheet, and realizing that, I just deleted the wrong worksheet. What do you do now? Very careful of it. Just make sure, double, triple check, make sure you're deleting the appropriate worksheet, the one that you intended to get rid of, before you actually confirm and say delete it. And saying that, try it out. Create a sheet, drop some content in there, right click on the tab, delete it. Read the message box. Just confirm that, yep, that's the sheet I'm talking about, and delete it. All right, so the next topic that I want to get into here, still dealing with sheets. You might recall earlier, when I first opened up this workbook, I got a single sheet, sheet 1. When I inserted a new sheet, just by clicking on the plus sign down there, do you remember how many worksheets you could have in a workbook? 255. So I can insert an additional worksheet. I can insert 254 more of them. But when I inserted a sheet, it got a default name of sheet 2. I insert another one. Now I got sheet 3 and so on. So something you're going to want to do to help you keep organized within your workbook. I'm doing maybe quarterly budgets. So my first worksheets, the first 3 months of the year, this will be quarter 1. Then I'll do the next 3 months on the next worksheet, that'll be quarter 2, and so on. So I'm going to want to rename them to keep me organized. Now to rename a worksheet, once again, another very simple, very quick technique here. I found the quickest way to rename a sheet, all you need to do, I'm going to rename sheet number 1. So I'm going to double click, just double click where it says sheet 1. This highlights the content, and I can just rename it. We'll just call it quarter 1. Once I've typed it in there, I'm going to hit my enter key, and I've now renamed the sheet. Let's see if I double click sheet 2, just the tab down at the bottom. Again, it highlights it, and I'll call this one quarter 2. Hit my enter key, and I've renamed the sheet. Really simple. Just double click the sheet tab down at the below, type in the name of the sheet, hit your enter key, and you're done. Really simple. Try it out. Open up your monthly budget, rename the sheet, call it quarter 1 or call it Fred. I really don't care. But name your worksheets. Keep yourself organized. Name those worksheets. All right, let's take a look at one more topic dealing with the worksheets themselves. We've seen deleting worksheets. We've seen renaming worksheets. We saw earlier on how to add worksheets. We actually saw it just a moment ago as well. Now I want to take a look at moving and copying worksheets. Let's take a look at moving first. Both of these techniques that I'm about to show you for moving and copying, very similar to one another and really simple to do. Take a look. So I've got 3 sheets here, quarter 1, quarter 2, and something called sheet 3. Maybe I'll rename that. Let's call this quarter 4. Oh wait, I don't have a quarter 3, and that's fine. Now I want to reorder these sheets. Maybe when I'm done with quarter 1, I'm not too concerned with that one anymore. So I want to bring quarter 2 to the front. When I'm done with quarter 2, I'll move quarter 4 to the front, and so on. So to reorder your sheets, move them around, it's a click and drag process. Take a look. So I'm going to grab quarter 4 here and move it to the beginning. And all I need to do, left click the tab, quarter 4, hold down, and drag it. And you see that little black arrow? It's kind of moving around with me. That's where you're going to drop it. So I'll left click and drag to the beginning, let go, and I've now moved the worksheet. Quarter 4 is at the beginning. Really simple. I'll grab that again, left click, and just drag it to the end. And there we have it. Just moving, reordering your worksheets. Just left click and drag them. Couldn't be any easier than that. Now, that was moving. How about copying a worksheet? You know what? Quarter 1, I'm probably going to use the same structure, the same bills, the same formulas, different data, but the same basic structure for quarter 2 and quarter 3 and quarter 4. Well, why don't I just copy this one and then rename it? So let's do this. Let's get rid of quarter 2. I'll just delete that one. I'm going to delete quarter 4. Now notice it didn't warn me like it did in the earlier lecture, right? And the reason why it didn't warn me when I deleted those is because they didn't have any data. Okay? But now quarter 2 rolls around and I need to recreate this worksheet, but for quarter 2 data. So rather than reinventing the wheel and recreating this, I'll just copy this as a new worksheet. Take a look. Now remember, moving a worksheet, it was left click, hold down, and drag. To copy a worksheet, it's still left click and drag, but I'm going to hold down the control key as I do this. So I'll press the control key on my keyboard, left click on quarter 1, and then just drag it. You'll see one minor difference. You see the little plus sign next to that piece of paper? I'm going to let go now, and I've copied the worksheet. They called it quarter 1 too, but I'm just going to rename that. I'll double click. Let's change that to quarter 2. And now I've got an exact duplicate of that worksheet between these two. And now for quarter 2, all I need to do is wipe out the months here. Let's get rid of that. I'll get rid of these values up here because this should be what? January, February, March, April 2016. All right. And I'm just going to autofill that. There's May and June. And I've got a new worksheet just copied from the previous one, ready for me to put my bill amounts in here. So control and drag moves them. Click and drag moves them. Control and drag will copy it. Try it out inside of your own workbook. Insert a few worksheets, drag them around, get comfortable with moving the worksheets around within your workbook, reordering content. Try the control and drag. Copy a workbook, or excuse me, a worksheet.